Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Brahmanandam Param Sukhadam Kevalam Jnana Murtim Dvandvatītam Gagana Sadrisham Tattvamasya Laksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadhi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatītam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami. Om. Adoration to Sadguru, who is Brahman, the giver of supreme bliss, embodiment of pure consciousness, one without a second, vast as the ether, infinite, eternal, beyond the three gunas and their modifications, the supreme precept. Yoga Vasistha Upashama Prakarana. We are in section 62, entitled Nature of Samadhi. Sage Vasishtha gives insight into the highest state of attainment. Here Samadhi is not practicing a stage of Samadhi. Samadhi has various stages. Here Samadhi is Sahaja Samadhi, spontaneous, ever present Samadhi. And that state is the highest state. Same that is described in the Gita as the Sthita Prajna. When Arjuna asked, what are the characteristics of one who is enlightened? And Krishna explains that whether he sits, whether he stands, whether he talks, no matter what he does, he is ever rooted in that awareness, I am absolute. And that's the ultimate goal. So now, and this is being related by Sage Vasishtha to Sri Rama through a spiritual episode between two great kings. They are enlightened kings, Suraghu and Parigha. They are great friends. I'm not going into the storyline, I'm just going into the presently philosophy aspect. These two are conversing with each other. Therefore, it's better to sneak into their conversation. And try to therefore understand that what is the highest goal of life, what is the ultimate purpose. Sage Vasishtha continues now as he tells the episode, King Suraghu is relating his experience, who he is, what he is experiencing, to his friend Parigha. His friend Parigha has asked, are you enjoying Samadhi? Are you practicing Samadhi? If he had said, yes, I'm practicing Samadhi, his friend would have laughed at him. But the friend is giving him the right answer. The direct intuitive realization of the self is called Samadhi. The Sanskrit root behind the Samadhi is Samyak Adhanam Samadhi. When Chitta is the mind stuff within. All things, tough or not tough, they're sustained by your mind stuff. Your mind stuff is like a mirror. And all through your spiritual journey from bondage to liberation, all that is happening in reflections in the chitta. All the while, chitta mirror remains untouched. So as long as chitta is involved with projections, you are not in samadhi. Because chitta is not holding samyak. Samyak means ever the same in this context. Ever some. The sky is ever the same, no matter how these clouds move. So, moving from the state of illusion defined by reflections to the revelation that pure awareness, that's what is reflecting in your chitta. When chitta is completely purified, then it's revealing the pure absolute. When you have come to that state, the same chitta is holding both. It is holding all the reflections. But at the same time, if you become mature in understanding, reflections are not real. So what is chitta revealing? The sky, pure sky. No matter how the reflections come, chitta remains just the same. And when you come to that type of wisdom, that reflections are not the reality. The reality that is being revealed is when chitta is absolutely free of all reflections. Chitta vritti nirodha. All vrittis are reflections, creating reflections. Just like in a cinema show, all projections are illusory. They are misinterpreting the screen. The screen is being misinterpreted in the form of a whole story of past, present, and future. Comedy, tragedy, all go on. What is giving reality to all the details? Comedy, tragedy, terrible, not terrible, all things that you are experiencing through the projections. What is giving reality to all of them? The screen. How will you know it? When the projections stop. Stopping the projections, as well as even while projections are being fully aware of the screen, that's called samadhi. You don't have to wait until the mind stops all its function. Enlightenment, there is all the projections of the mind, vrittis, are not viewed from your inner heart level as reality. Therefore, you become just a witness to all those. The sky is a witness to all the clouds. This is the highest level. But in order to come to the highest level, there is a progressive movement. Characterized by your increasing anasakti, detachment. Same situation, same problem, same food that you have been cooking every day. As time passes by, you cook it like a fun. So even while you are busy cooking, your mind is not tense. I'm just giving a simple, joking way to understand. Even while you are handling your problems, and as the problems are handled, you express natural reaction to problems. A hot chili enters your mouth, no matter how enlightened you are. You open your mouth and react. All reactions will continue in a normal way. But at the deepest level, all this, like a sky viewing the clouds moving. And that state has to be reached progressively. You don't expect that suddenly you enter into Sahaja Samadhi. It just needs you for 10 minutes of more sadhana. Or 10 days of more sadhana. The direct intuitive realization of the self is called samadhi by the sages. It is not a means to an end. It is the intuitive revelation of the highest truth. It is the ultimate, it is the reality. Everything else you gain in your life is a means to an end. But when you attain enlightenment, that is not a means to some end. This is the end. It is variously described. The same state is described as supreme contentment, param tripti. Remember, 4 gateways to liberation. Serenity. Try to understand what serenity implies. And serenity is a progressive movement. How calm can you be? Not going into past, future, not even with the present defined by your mind. Going in between the vrittis, thought waves, watching the show. If you could get a special mechanism in your eyes that can see in between the 2 projections, then you will see your cinema show will not be interesting. It will be just broken up images put together, creating an illusion of a reality, as it were, a real story. So, even while the story continues of tragedy or comedy, use your special instrument and see in between. And in between, what is sneaking in all the time is the screen. Nothing is there. Absolutely. Day by day, you go through so many things. Each time you go to sleep, nothing is there. Understand, nature is giving you the highest lesson. Nothing is there. That is when you are really restful. Then why are you going to grab things to be peaceful? Ungrabbing them, you become absolutely peaceful. So, turning to the 4 points on Shama, allowing, that's called real prashanti. Each time people say, oh, I'm now peaceful. It's pointing to the Shama movement. But if your peace is on the basis of something has happened, and your mind is going after how wonderful money has come in and how much interest will come. And therefore you are Shant. That is not prashant. Your Shanti can be disturbed very easily. Prashant, your Shanti cannot be disturbed by any happening in the world. Not even with your body being there or being subjected to death. Not whether the whole world is around you or things around you go into pralaya, deluge. No matter what happens, that serenity is undisturbed. And therefore, supreme contentment, param tripti, ordinary contentment is elusive. You are contented for a while, but very soon you become discontented. But here the contentment is a sense of absolute fulfillment. And satsanga. In the beginning, you seek good association to be led to enlightenment. But here you are yourself the Sat. You are not associating with it. You are the absolute truth. Satsanga is to be in association with the truth, the literal meaning. And vichar, your vichar movement, the movement of understanding, who am I, is at its climax. So that's the state, that's the goal of life. So it is described as supreme tripti, param tripti, fulfillment of all desires, absolute state of nishkamya. All that you desire in the world, now all desiring process has vanished. Not develop a difficult way of understanding, oh, how difficult it is. In your sleep, what happens? Without your effort, all things you have been desiring move away from your mind and you don't miss it. Don't wake up cursing your sleep. Or you let me without my dear desires. So deep down it is instinctive in you to stay detached. So it is not something impossible. But now, instead of waiting to go to sleep to be detached, attain samadhi, which is sleepless sleep. It's transcendental realization. As long as your realization is confined to causation, it's a relative realization. Causation means time, space, and things happen and you always understand them as there has been an effort behind it and this is a result that you are experiencing, there is a cause and effect. All your gain in the relative world subjected to time, space and causation. But here this is not a gain, it's a revelation. And it transcends 3 W's, WWW. Who, where, when. Who, where, why. No longer do you sit in the website of your iPad, the ego pad. and cessation of all distractions of the mind. That intuitive vision, which is free of confusion, devoid of egoism, and which does not throw one into the depths of dualities or multiplicities. Try to understand, simple way. You are watching the show. If you are the director of the film, you yourself have created it. You sit down and you don't become upset and shake up when the Dracula starts opening the teeth. Because you yourself created it. You are amused. So though you are seated in the same hall like many others, the others are being shaken up every moment one way or the other. And here you are simply watching. How wonderful you succeeded in creating. So you are not thrown into the depths of multiplicities. Others are being thrown into the illusion created by this show. You are not. There is subtle point. If you continue, you develop that type of internal spiritual maturity, that things you are experiencing, you have promoted. You are the director of the show. You have two stages. You have been pushed to direct the show. Then you are in a state of bondage. But you discover the real you is the same Brahman. So ultimately, whatever you have accomplished, behind your you is a divine I am. And to the divine I am, all the show you have created is just a fun leela. All blame goes to leela. So living in the same world, seeing the same show, one who is enlightened doesn't fall into the depths of multiplicities, remains non-dual absolute. And this state is more immutable and firm than the Sumeru mountains, and this is called samadhi. That mental process which is free of all cares, worries, anxieties, which has attained the fulfillment of all its desires, and which is free from the illusions of gain and loss. So you are always experiencing and deluded by the illusion of gain and loss. You are working very hard to gain. And what you think that you have really gained, it just takes a little more maturity and realize it has been a loss. And for being more adult-like in life, gain and loss, these evaluations are not made by you. You leave it in the hands of God. In other words, certain situation seems to be like something very prosperous it has happened. But it proves to be negative as time passes by. You went to the airport and found the plane exactly at the same time. At that time it is a gain. But the plane has hardly started that is being hijacked. So what has happened to your gain? So gain and loss, these are relative terms. So in practical world, you use your common sense. What seems gain, work for. And what seems loss, prevent it. But while doing so, bring in a spirit of surrender to God. Oh God, guide me. Under God's guidance, as bhakti enters your heart and surrender begins to operate, you will not be deluded by the illusion of gain and loss. And in higher level, your mind remains completely untouched because there is nothing to gain and nothing to lose. Your deepest identity, I am, is not going to be affected. From the very moment when the mind of a sage becomes eternally fused with the truth, it's just allegorical word, nothing to be fused with. So don't get confused. When the mind has reached the state of samadhi, when chitta is revealing the truth, that's the time he enjoys ceaseless samadhi at all times. Just as the sun does not give up its effulgence at any time, to the immature children, from kid point of view, or sometimes grown-ups are also like kids. Sun goes through many troubles from morning till evening. Not the same even in 1 hour. But while you are interpreting sun being constantly in trouble, sun is constantly the same. Ever the same. So, in the state of enlightenment, that sun, the essential state of your personality is like the sun. And that state remains untouched. A sage does not abandon his intuitive vision at any time during his life. Backed up by the impressions of wisdom, his mind continues to effortlessly flow towards Brahman. Just as a river continues to flow towards the ocean without interruption. Here again, river has to go through many challenges until comes a time when the river has come to a certain height and is looking at the ocean. And now the movement of the river cannot go backward. It has nowhere to go but just go on flowing into the ocean. When that you have come to that state, you are a Jivan Mukta. And soon you become communing with the ocean, and yet another angle, you are still flowing. But your flowing is no longer in any way restricting your experience. I am the ocean. Just as time does not stop for a moment, or the breeze does not forget its movement, in the same manner, the mati, understanding of a sage, does not forget Brahman even for a single moment. It's not a question of remembering, it's not an act of remembrance. Enlightenment is your essential nature. You don't remember, you don't use your mind to remember. Where am I enlightened? Where am I sitting now? I am ever endowed with spiritual wisdom. Here the I am, it relates to that real identity. I am supremely pure. I am the peaceful self at all times. That I am is the absolute reality. That's the reality of in every individual. In a sage, he has realized it. Those who are struggling, they are under the impact of ignorance. I am ever immersed in samadhi. How can my samadhi be interrupted by anything or for any reason? That's what Surga tells Parigha. When Parigha asked, do you practice samadhi? He says, I have no need to practice samadhi. I mean, samadhi is my natural state. O sage, whatever is experienced in this world is nothing but the non-dual self. And again, even while experiencing diversity of things through the mind and senses, all these experiences are interpreted by mind and senses. They are not the reality. Change the spectacle of your mind. Bring some changes in your senses. And the world you experience goes on changing. The changing world is just like a child having put on certain specs in his eyes, and now suddenly cries out, "Mummy, mummy," everything has become blue. I want to see the old reality of beautiful red, yellow, and other colors. But all is blue. I'm lost. So that crying I'm lost is based upon what type of glass you are wearing. The world you are experiencing depends upon your mind and senses. And your mind and senses go on improving, changing, led by your karma. So that world is absolutely unsteady. Because this is not the real world. Same world, and your mind and senses come under the control of pure chitta. Then you have moved away, then as if you have moved away from using limited spectacles. Therefore, speaking from the transcendental point of view, when the very mind has no reality of its own, there is neither samadhi nor mental distraction for me. There is no samadhi as from practicing point of view. That state itself is samadhi. O sage, he whose intellect is free of the perceptions of duality. Whenever duality is said, it implies multiplicity. first you become dual, not stay one alone. The moment there comes other than you, then countless things sneak in. Figure that out. Who is ever balanced in pleasure and pain, who is endowed with equal vision at all times, and who sees the one self underlying all names and forms. For him there is neither distraction nor one-pointedness of the mind. In other words, there is always, person lives with effort. Mind is going in so many directions, but you have to focus on your job. So bring the mind from distraction to concentration. Make up your mind. There's always a mind you subjected to make-up process. But that is not so in the state of enlightenment. The enlightened experience is not based on drifting mind. How then can I practice samadhi or stay without samadhi? That's his answer to his friend. In the next section, King Suraku continues to describe his experience. King Parikha said, "O king, you have indeed realized the highest truth." Parikha was testing him, and he passed the test. Freed of all feverish torments of the world. Feverish torments are the kleshas, afflictions. Again, just to remind you, ignorance, egoism, attachment, hatred, fear of death. These are the 5 roots of all miseries of the world. Your mind shines like the lustrous moon, overflowing with the nectar of spiritual bliss. Raj Yoga describes, as you become enlightened, your mind has aklishta vrittis. Thoughts waves arise, but they are not envenomed by, not restricted by 5 kleshas. They are not going to intensify these 5 illusions: ignorance, egoism, attachment, hatred, and fear. In that state, the experience is a total inspiration. Like the ocean that remains unaffected by gusty winds, your mind is free of all distractions. It is boundless and profound. O knower of truth, you appear like the blue sky during winter, devoid of the clouds of egoistic vision. Limitless and eternal, you are ever balanced in pleasure and pain, gain and loss. Outwardly, life continues to experience or encounter pleasure, pain, gain, loss. But this outer changes go on. That has nothing to do with the heart-based experience. I am the sky, not ordinary sky, but the wintry sky with big full moon. This you can watch the moon. Free of all attachments, You are established in the realization of oneself underlying all illusory names and forms. King Suragu said, "O sage, in this world, there is no object which could be desired by us. Since thus this world is illusory for us both, there is nothing to be either accepted or rejected by us. An emperor who has attained liberation becomes detached from his vast empire. He can be contented with even a small village because there is nothing desirable or undesirable for him. In the state of liberation, you are not counting upon your worldly gain and loss, no matter how is your worldly setting. No matter how liberated you are, from body point of view, it's as long as body is there, all these realities apply to the body. And since body itself you are not there, then all that bodily related values have nothing to do with you. But as long as in the worldly set, gain and loss go on creating tremendous impact on the mind. People praise or condemn objects because of the presence of raga, attachment in their minds. But for him whose intellect is pure, there is no need to praise or condemn any object. He aspires to attain the self alone. People find happiness. They make their day by discovering defect in others and finding themselves clever. But you don't have to make your day. Your day is secure. Every day you live is your state of enlightenment. The body is constituted of flesh and bones. The external world is formed by earth, wood and rocks. This also is allegorical description. It's called not self. You are not the body, that's first point. First you start, body is yourself. In enlightenment, body is a not self. But if body is not self, then all matter, world of matter is also not self. Because the body has come out of the world of matter. So what is there to be desired in this world? Desire to have body. It's like desire to hold on to a skeleton. Or desire to hold on to any aspect of the world. That world also is nothing but in the realm of mortality. With the cessation of desire, attachment and hatred both come to an end. In brief, O friend, if the mind is free of all distractions and is contented with the nectar of the self, then this is the highest form of attainment. This is the highest form of bliss. Sage Vasishtha said, Thus did Suraghu and Parigha converse on spiritual matters. And having lived together for a while, they went their separate ways in order to perform their different duties. O Rama, you too must abide in the world, like the enlightened kings Suraghu and Parigha. Suraghu and Parigha episode is concluded. Sage Vasishtha continues, section 64, methods of overcoming the defects of the mind. Defects mean all the impurities and the troubles that are created by the mind. Sage Vasishtha continued, O Rama, he who takes recourse to good association and practice of spiritual inquiry acquires a pure intellect, which is praised by all sages and saints. Sage Vasishtha introducing to two of the gatekeepers. The other gatekeepers are implied. And what is that? Satsanga and Vichar. Life is lived purposefully when you are benefited by satsanga and vichar. When satsanga movement starts in your life, you look for that type of association which paves the way for practicing integral yoga in daily life. Think of, you want to be a good musician, and you have a veena. The chords are not all straight. Some are too tight, some are too loose. You need now to go to proper musical school, that's satsanga. To tune your strings and to be guided to sur, melodious music, not discordant sound of coming out of your threads, strings. And remember the whole sequence, satsangatve nihasangatvam. Once the melody starts and your mind melts with the melody, all the discord that had created a lot of tension in your mind, they simply move away. Nisangatvam. Now you are not attached to all those unnecessary sounds. Nisangatve nishchalatatvam. Now you discover that you are unshakable. Nothing in the world can make you better or no less better. You are unshakable, full, purnam. Nishchal tattva jivan mukti. That gives you liberation. Just as with the advent of the autumn season, the sky becomes free of clouds, the paths become free of mud and other impurities, and the full moon floods the sky with its lustrous light. In the same way, with the advent of intuitional wisdom, the sky of the chitta becomes free of egoistic illusions. Impurities such as attachment and hatred are removed, and the heart is filled with the bliss of the self. Such a sage, who is ever immersed in reflecting upon the nature of the self, who is free of all external and internal attachments, and who enjoys the bliss of the self, his mind is never tormented by the afflictions of the world. That's a state of Shokarahit, free of sorrow. Ashocyanan vashochastvam. You are constantly busy, involved in worrying over things not worth worrying for. And ultimate end comes when you fully understand the point. And then you stop worrying. Because all that you have been worrying for, you are already that identity. You are the very ocean of Ananda. And all that you are worrying for, you are losing your happiness. Your happiness is just drifting away day by day. Well, deep down, you are the ocean. Figure that out. That's good. And with this, I will conclude for today. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukuma Bandhanan Mrityor Mukshyamamritat Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kashchid Dukhabhag Bhavet Om Shanti 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 Om Hari Om Tat Sat.